Welcome to G117 Film Talk. My name is Ivy.
My name is Spencer. For the next few minutes, we will be discussing our most significant movies that we feel are significant towards film history.
I will be discussing the one and only E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
And I will be discussing the amazing Kelly's Heroes.
So let's start off with the best, and that is E.T. Boom, what?
That better be a joke.
Nah, broski, it isn't. And this is why. The main reason this movie is significant, in my opinion, is the fact that the director and producer of the movie was Steven Spielberg. Spielberg is a storyteller, and as such, he created stories and tells them in an effective way and will do whatever it takes to do so. Steven Spielberg has directed, produced, and/or written multiple films. The idea of the E.T. franchise came to him after his back-to-back success of Jaws in 1975 and Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977. He was in the process of creating a more personal story directed from his childhood, but of course it got shelved. He moved on to direct another big-budget film called 1941. Spielberg soon got the idea to create a pseudo-sequel which was intended to be like Close Encounters, but really wasn't, and he would call it Night Skies. At the time, it was too dark of a film for Spielberg's taste, so with the help of writer Melissa Matheson, they combined his semi-bio story with the benevolent alien visiting Earth to make, in my opinion, film's most significant film. Right after this film was created, it fueled Spielberg to create and refashion E.T. into another wondrous creation, Poltergeist, which kind of started me on my verge into horror, suspenseful, mysterious, mind-boggling films. Aside from the previous reason as to the significance of the movie, what I also found significant, especially since I recently saw the movie again through a different perspective, was the cinematography.
What about the cinematography caught your attention?
Well, as a kid, I easily saw E.T. as a movie shot as if a kid was always going to watch this movie. But recently, with all the information brought to me through film history, is that E.T. isn't and wasn't shot like any kid's movie previously and recently filmed. All shots taken in this film, from shadows to lighting, brought me back to previous horror films. This movie also had a similar filming structure like that of The Goonies. What I also found way more interesting from the filming is that all you saw throughout the movie were kids' faces, aside from Dee Wallace. The collaboration was brilliant, in my opinion, with cinematographer Alan Daville and director-producer Spielberg. This film broke the ceiling into what is now common today with movies that now appeal more to adults and children. This movie was definitely filmed for adults, but gave the excitement and fanatic taste for kids.
Whoa, tell me more that I and our listeners may want to know.
Some things you may not have known about the film was that the fusion of photos and paintings of famous people inspired the way E.T. was created. One of which was from a painting by Carlo Rambaldi called Woman of Delta. When it came down to finding the right voice for E.T., Spielberg recorded himself first, of course, but ended up getting a non-actor named Pat Welch, whose voice was heard at a local camera store. During the movie, E.T. had a favorite snack, Reese's Pieces, only because Hershey's agreed to spend $1 million for the rights to promote their product in E.T., but M&M's were supposed to actually be his choice of snack. Now everyone knows the famous scene in the movie where Ellie and E.T. are flying across the face of the moon. Well, what most people don't know is that everything in that shot was real except for Ellie and E.T. I didn't know they weren't real until I saw a video that showed how it was done. Aside from the hidden secrets and the cinematography of the film, the special effects of the film were increasingly great compared to previous films from both the US and other countries. Because if you see this specific scene from the movie, the switching of scene and fades are so intact and smooth that you wouldn't really know that Ellie and E.T. aren't real in the scene. To conclude my explanation, here is that scene.
It's too bumpy. We'll have to walk from here. E.T.
So what do you think about E.T. now?
I still think my choice of film is way better once I explain it, but you definitely got me wanting to rewatch E.T. again.
Well, that's better than anything. Now tell our listeners and myself as to why Kelly's Heroes is significant to you and to film history.
Kelly's Heroes is a comedy movie directed by Brian G. Hutton that drifts away from the usual heroism and historic accuracy of World War II movies. The film adds a sense of humor to the war and is a great piece of entertainment. It is about an oddball outfit of the 35th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army. Within the first 15 minutes of the movie, the main character, Private Kelly, played by Clint Eastwood, captures a German colonel and learns that the Germans have acquired 14,000 bars of gold behind enemy lines. He starts to formulate a plan to storm past the lines and steal the gold. The group goes through some crazy antics just across the scrambled front lines in search of this gold, and along the way they meet some fairly interesting characters. The movie incorporates a mix of ideals and characters from both the 1940s, from which the movie's setting is placed, and the 1970s, in which the movie was filmed. One of the characters in the movie is a tank commander and acts much like a common hippie and often repeats phrases from the 70s, which is quite contradictory to the 1940s era. The film employs a flurry of many famous actors in the 1970s, including Don Rickles, Carol O'Connor, Telly Savalas, and Clint Eastwood himself. Many of the supporting actors seem to play very well with each other in the film, and the comedic and humorous sense of the movie really comes out during the lively banter between so many of the different characters throughout the film. Several scenes are also stitched into the film that bear the resemblance of several of Clint Eastwood's own films, such as the scene of Kelly, Oddball, and Big Joe all walking down the main street towards the last German Tiger tank guarding the gold. The main theme, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is played during this scene and is a direct reflection of the iconic cowboy shoot-'em-up movie.
But what about the cinematics?
The movie uses a wealth of cinematic shots that help establish it as being like an art piece. Instead of the usual shaky camera shots that usually follow soldiers around as they move and run through a war movie, this movie focuses on the cinematic view and the over-glorification of battle. The slow and steady panning shots of the movie, along with the brilliantly orchestrated music of Lalo Schifrin, help build the suspense of the movie. As characterized by many of the classic movies of the 70s, the film is more about the dialogue and the interaction between the characters in and out of battle, rather than the actual battle itself. Kelly's Heroes is an excellent film that displays the so-called heroes of this misfit group, even though their intentions are less than reputable. The movie is significant, in my opinion, of its interaction between two different decades in order to build an amazing and well-played-out storyline. With the use of an amazing orchestra soundtrack and an excellent plot, the movie plays on the actors' dialogue and their great immersions into their own characters. It may not be in one of the top 10, but it's definitely one of the best Clint Eastwood movies in his acting career, and a must-see for those looking for some great quality entertainment.
Wow, now I want to see Kelly's Heroes.
Well, as much as I want to see E.T. and you want to see Kelly's Heroes, I hope our listeners want to do the same and hopefully appreciate more of the quality of past films and modern movies and how far filming has come in such a short time.
Exactly. Thank you for listening, everyone. We would like to thank Wikipedia.com, MentalFloss.com, our local library, Kelly's Heroes, and E.T. the Extraterrestrial Movie for providing us with the information that we needed to hopefully convince you all listening to appreciate all films, but to appreciate more the film that you find more significant.